Welcome to tonight's Open Circuit, the IEEE UCF official podcast. I'm your host, Fernando Oriundo.
And I'm Brian Smith. On today's episode, we have Andres Vargas. He is an accomplished industrial engineer and MBA graduate with 7 years of work-related experience in systems engineering, quality assurance, lifecycle cost analysis, and data analytics. He currently works as mission assurance lead at Northrop Grumman Systems.
He's also a proven leader with experience leading organizations such as the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers at the student and professional levels. He's won 2 Quality as Personal Awards from Northrop Grumman and various other awards throughout his career. Welcome to the show, Andres.
Thank you, guys. Good intro. Thank you.
We try. So I've heard about your college story a few times, and honestly, each time it just sheds a tear. You know, it really hits home. So can you tell us a bit about it?
My college story. Yeah. So I graduated high school in 2007, and I went straight into community college. I was raised here in Florida, in Melbourne, Florida, so like an hour away from Orlando, and I went to Melbourne High School. So I went to the local community college, which was Brevard Community College at the time. I think now it's called Eastern Florida State College or something. And I was there for about 3 years. And while I was doing that, I was part of a new program that they were starting called the Pre-Engineering AA Associate's Degree. And it was a brand new program. So they allowed us to start getting some of the engineering courses right off the bat before we transferred to the university. And during my time as a student there, I was working as a janitor in Rockwell Collins. So that allowed me to pay for school, allowed me to pay for my books, all that kind of stuff. Because I didn't want to get into student debt until I got to the university level, because I knew that was going to be a whole different thing. So I was working while going to school. So it took me a little bit longer than most people. It took me about 3 years. And once that was done, I made the transfer, I think around 2011, spring 2011, to UCF. And right off the bat, I got involved. I mean, it was my opportunity not only to, finally be in a big university, but I got to know more people, got to be a little bit more social, have a little bit more fun. Join girl groups like SHEP, which that's another story too. And yeah, so college for me, when I got to UCF was a big change. Community college definitely prepped me for the type of vibe that the school was, but obviously UCF's a big thing. So, and I wanted to know people. So I looked up at the engineering website for UCF, and I saw all the clubs that they had. I saw SHEP, Hispanic Professional Engineers, check the box, that was me. And I was very hesitant because I'm a very shy person initially. So I didn't know if I should, join it, or what's this whole thing about. And then when I walked by the first meeting that they had a big sign that had arroz con pollo, which was like rice and chicken. I was like, oh, great, free food. I'm hungry. I love this. Got in, and then I got blown with all the information about, internships, jobs, conferences, things I didn't even know about. And I was just like, okay, this is a whole different ball game now. And honestly, I went to the first event, which was a party. So I was like, all right, let's see what the whole deal is. And honestly, that's kind of where it went off. And I got to meet everybody at the time. They included me. They welcomed me into the group, and the rest is history. And during my time in college, I wasn't the best student. I'm not gonna lie. There were a few semesters there where it was all about having a little bit more fun than studying. But after a while, I got serious and realized that the importance of getting good grades, finding the right job that you want, was very important. So I got more serious, and I became more involved in SHEP as a leader. And I know you guys had that question later on, but my entire college experience was pretty much either being a leader, working, and trying to do the best I can in school, which at the time during college as well, university, I was working at Universal Studios. So it was a lot of things I was juggling at the time, but it was great. I do not regret my college experience whatsoever. It was fun. I met a lot of amazing people, friends that I have till today. And it's been since 2015 when I graduated with my bachelor's. So it was fun, a good experience. Definitely a big one.
Yeah, I know me personally too. My earlier college career, maybe I can speak for Brian as well. I was very, more towards the party side of it, and I didn't really focus on school. It wasn't until like maybe last semester where my GPA started dropping a little. I'm like, and I'm graduating soon, so I'm like, what do I do? I want to have friends, but I need to study.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, and I think how the university lists it is a culture shock. You know, you're going from, and I took the same path. I went to community college first, and although it was a great first step to preparing myself to university when I first arrived, just like Andre said, there's so much, or so many people, there's so many things to do, and including that is parties, and some of these things I know. That can help you with internships, with knowledge, with gaining that engineering skill will also coincide with large groups of friends, which, you know, we're all at this point, young adolescents, all that kind of stuff. Like we're going to get involved. But I know my experience paralleled with those more fun moments came the knowledge that brought me to realize the importance that comes with learning and growing through this. I assume, Andres, did you have that same kind of experience and realization?
I had a big reality check.
Yeah.
I don't know, Fernando, you remember this part of the story. I think it was my second semester at UCF, tailgate season, brand new to the whole vibe. I was like, oh, this is great. Every weekend there was a party. You know, Shep at the time used to throw really good, fun parties. You know, we had some good time. And you know, the grade slipped. And then when the fall semester ended, I got this big nasty email saying that you are now in academic probation, and your GPA was not the best at the time. And that was a shock. And the thing was, I had to go. I was going to meet up with some friends to go to Busch Gardens that same day. I did not have a good time because I had this shock of like, oh, I have to get serious about this. So, you know, I took a step back from work. I still worked, but I didn't work as much as I was working. Still got involved with SHIP, but not too much. Eventually I would get more and more involved in SHIP, but that definitely was like, all right, I gotta start taking this seriously, or I'm gonna definitely regret this, or my parents are gonna kill me. So gotta take it seriously.
That's always involved as well. The family is another big part sometimes.
Yeah.
I know I put myself in your shoes when I heard that, like the academic probation email. I was like, you know, you really think like, well, what am I really here for? You know, like it's fun, time does fly, but come on, gotta get going on it.
Oh yeah, although, you know, this is only our second episode of the podcast, it already seems like we have a good idea that failure is a really important part of your life. And that, although I don't consider, you know, that to be a massive failure, but it was that shock that like, oh no, failure, this is possible. Like I'm not invincible. And it's those little reminders here and there can really kick you in the right direction. I know I had the very similar reminder the first time I failed a class. You know, I was really pushing, worked my butt off trying to make sure I passed whatever I could. And you get, especially in engineering, get this idea like, oh, the curve might save you. Let me, you know, just keep pushing. And then you see that at the end of that semester, and you're like, wow, this actually happened. Like this idea, it doesn't seem real until you get that first recognition from an outside source that it's like, oh yeah, I messed up.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And honestly, it feels really nice now if you're getting A from all your all-nighters and actually putting hard work.
Yep.
So just trying to ride along the curve, basically.
Oh yeah. And I'd say, I assume just like Andres, like it kicked me right into gear. But beyond myself, I mean, I'm happy I'm getting better grades, but it's evident that these kicks can bring you a great profession. Northrop, that's a big name.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did that happen? Like Shep or like?
So when I first started college in general, I was going towards electrical engineering actually, and I think it was about within a year at UCF. You know, being involved with SHEP and getting an idea of all the other disciplines, I started to feel like electrical engineering was just not going to be for me, and I didn't want to force myself into doing something that I was not going to jump joining. And I spoke to some advisors, and you know, they told me that if you want to make the jump, you know, now is a good time because you're not really far into electrical engineering. You're in that point where you can now start making those choices. So after talking to some friends and these advisors, they recommended me take intro to industrial engineering. They said that if you like it, cool, you make the switch. If you don't, it won't really affect you. We'll just count it as an elective or something like that. I'm like, okay, cool. And I think within 2 weeks of taking the class, I was like, I'm in, this is it. Let's just make the switch. I'm good. So that that same semester, and I guess that nice confidence that I was now doing something I enjoyed. And I didn't really have any internships yet, and I didn't have the GPA was still building from the academic probation stuff. And I went to the HENAC conference, which is one that happens before the SHEP conference.
Mm-hmm.
And that year it was here in Orlando. And since SHEP and UCF had a great vibe, they allowed a bunch of us to go for free. And I got to go for free. And the year prior to that, I went to the SHEP conference, and it was a horrible nightmare. I didn't have a great resume. I got denied. It was that was another reality check when people start saying no. And you're like, oh, okay, great. So I already kind of knew the vibe. I knew exactly what to do at these conferences. I was prepped. I knew what to do. Even though I didn't have much, I was ready. I was going to go into the career fair, and the typical people are going to go to Boeing and the big companies and stuff like that. And I had the intention of doing that as well. But my strategy was, let me do some prep. Let me get my speech ready. Let me go talk to these other random companies that maybe I'm not too interested in. Going to get my confidence going. And Northrop was there. And I'll be honest, I don't know what Northrop did. I was like, I don't know what's going on. So I went up and I saw this lady. Her name was Cecilia. And she was super nice, super kind. And I spoke to her, and she was like, so why do you want to work at Northrop? I was honest with her. I was like, listen, honestly, I'm looking for experience. I just recently, switched over to industrial engineering. My passion is in this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. At that time, I was the SHEP Junior Coordinator, which is a program that they do for high school students. And I was able to talk about that, my passion about that, and how much I was really into it. And I was just looking for an opportunity to show my worth, to show my proof, what I have to offer. And it was weird because I couldn't really read her at the time. So I was like, okay, I don't know if this is working. So she pulled this other lady. They started talking amongst themselves with my resume, and they asked it for another copy. So I gave them another copy. And they were just like, okay, really like you. If we want to continue forward, we'll let you know, and have a good day. I was like, all right, cool. We'll see what happens. Went off, had like another interview or so, which obviously was building my confidence. And a few weeks later, I got a call saying, hey, we want to interview you over the phone. I was like, all right, cool. Who was it with? I think someone with HR. I can't remember. And went well. I didn't really pay too much attention to it, though. I figured, whatever. So the week prior to going to the SHEP conference, which was a few weeks later after that, I got a call saying, hey, we want to interview you. And I was like, well, listen, I'm actually heading over to another conference. Is there any chance we can postpone this to after that? That happened. I did that. And the call again, I just talked about myself. It was really anything technical. It was a few about like my classes and stuff like that, but nothing too like what I was assuming these interviews would be at this point, like after doing a few of them. And the way I got the first internship was I had just worked out, I was taking a shower, I got out of the shower, and I got this phone call. And I didn't know who it was. I was like, I'm not going to answer it. So as I was getting ready, there was a voicemail. So I put on the voicemail on speaker, and it was like, hey, we want to extend you an offer for an internship in California. And I was like, oh, I'm in my towel, I'm getting ready to go to school, take some classes. And I was like, crap, I just got an offer. And I celebrated. I didn't care if I accepted it or not. I was like, it made it, after, academic probation, after all this struggle, I was like, this is awesome. This is finally what's happening. Yeah. So I took it, and that's a whole different story too, how I ended up getting to California. But it was in LA for 3 months. It was fun. And came back. I did an amazing job according to them, and they extended me an offer to do another one the following summer. I went to Palmdale, which is about an hour north of LA, which is in the desert, which is a whole different story. And I came back. I decided to take a summer off from internships to finish school because I was at that point, I wanted to graduate. And for my last semester, I went to the conferences, I did the whole deal, but I was like, you know what? Let me see if I can pull some contacts, maybe some networking I did at Northrop. Maybe they can give me an offer somewhere. And they gave me an offer here in Melbourne, Florida, which is one of the big sites that they have now at Northrop. And I was there, and they extended to me, and I was like, you know what? I'm good. I don't have to worry about getting a job now. Just focus on passing my last few exams, and there it is. And I ended up being there for about 4 years. And last year, I just transferred to Orlando to work here at the ones near UCF. So it's been a ride. So it was fun.
It's very
Can't
cool.
complain.
That sounds wild.
Funny enough, just like you, last year, I was also the SHEP Junior Director, for SHEP UCF.
There you go.
And something that I learned, because again, it was my first Chef National Conference, my first HENAC. I didn't have much to put on my resume. I just started my position, nothing technical. And something that I did learn was that they care about your personality a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Something a recruiter told me was that, end of the day, we're all engineers. The key thing is, do we want to work for you? You know, we can all learn, but do we like you? And that really took me by storm.
Yeah, and I've done recruiting for Northrop since then. So when I started working, I was like, I want to get into the recruiting side of things. I want to know how this world works, and it's definitely an experience because at these companies, and this is good for the listeners. It's like you get the two different types of people at these events. You get the HR that are looking for the qualifications, the criteria for the job, and then you have the actual engineers looking for people that are people. Like, yeah, we know, we all know you guys are doing school. We all know you're going to finish and you're going to graduate and you know the basics. But what else do you have to offer? Do you have the personality, your passions? We want to see those sides of you. And that definitely, and I've said this many times, if I'm looking at two resumes and they're telling me which one do you want to give an interview to, and it's between a 4.0 and 3.2, for example, if I remember the 3.2 vividly from the talk, from the career fair or whatever event, I'm going to give this guy a chance, or her. Like, I want to give this person a chance. Because we're going to be working with you every day. And if you're just going to be there at your desk, kind of just like whatever, like, I mean, it's cool, you're doing your job, but like, be involved, come into the team. We want you to do the work with also bringing part of the team. So that's a big thing of what people look for.
No, exactly. And I just want to tell the viewers that join SHEP, join SWE, join some sort of organization. Obviously, IEEE. It goes a long way. Actually, it helps you a lot. I have no idea where I'd be without first joining SHEP and IEEE. My resume wouldn't be anything, just a piece of paper.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I mean everything from the opportunities that you have in the given organization to developing your social skills, being around people, having to work with people. I would also say take that a step further, get involved, but take up a position. Have to put yourself where you have to talk to people, you have to deal with people, and then also more than anything, be yourself. That was something I definitely had a problem with. Was trying to appease the people I were talking to, and they could tell, and it was really obvious. I remember I was at a oh my goodness, a TEA mixer, and somebody looked at me and they're like, hey, I get it, but you need to like settle down. Like, it's okay. Like, you can just focus on one thing. You don't have to enjoy everything that's going on. Like, just know what you want and come up here and be yourself. Like, it's going to be fine. And I heard that and I was like, you know what? Like, yeah. I actually ended up leaving that mixer because I was like, all right, I need to figure this out before I come back. And ever since, like, that person really taught me. I think it was an employee at BRPH, which is ultimately not some place that I'm aiming to work for, but I think that advice was extremely important. And that's another thing. Everybody has great advice, whether you want to work for them or not. Not everyone has great advice. Let me clarify. Everyone has some advice, and it's worth considering everything. Doesn't mean listen to everything, but like that moment. I wasn't planning to work for him, but he had a piece of information that really pushed me in the right direction. I think that's also important to look into.
And a quick note about the leadership thing. I mean, a lot of people also have a misconception that just by putting a leadership position on your resume is going to automatically get you something. Like when I was president of SHEP at UCF, I went to the SHEP conference that year, and I went to the General Mills, I think it was, hospitality suite. So I went in there. It's kind of like a mixer. You talk to people. And they saw the president on the resume, and she's like, all right, so what are you doing as president? I honestly I didn't think about the things I was accomplishing. I was thinking about the role itself, like the details. Like, I run the e-board, I run this and that. And what she said to me, and it's something I tell every single person since, is, yeah, you're at a SHEP conference. You're a SHEP president. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other SHEP presidents. What are you doing differently than all these other people? And that kind of really resonated with me, because you got to kind of go, all right, yeah, we're all students. We're all trying to do the same thing. What am I doing differently that's going to make this person pay attention to me? Is it the projects? Is it the work? Is it the grades? Like, you got to start developing what I say is your menu. Your resume is your menu. They're looking at it, but you, at the waiter, has to describe what's appetizing about the menu. So that's something I always try to tell people, is don't just put something just for the sake it's going to look good. You got to back it up somehow. So.
Oh yeah. And also pursue something that you care about, that you're passionate about. Because I think those aspects of actually being able to talk about it come with that as well.
Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting way of looking at it. I never thought about your resume is your menu and you're the waiter. That's really cool. Wow.
It's a really cool analogy.
So how has the student and professional level of Shep really changed for you, or has it not changed at all?
You mean between the two of them?
Yeah, how's it different?
It's very different. So when I finished college, there wasn't a professional chapter here in Orlando. There had been one, but it was kind of dead. And at the time, we were hosting one of the regional conferences here in Orlando. So UCF was a big part of that. And one of the requirements at the time was you needed to have a professional chapter nearby to help provide things. So me, myself, and a few others kind of took the initiative to find out, like, what's happened, what's going on, how can we kind of make this work? And we would reach out to a lot of the old folks. I don't want to say old, but people that were at the time, the ones that were part of this chapter, and see that how we can make it happen. And we did. We were able to create the chapter. We held a few events, and the chapter was going. So the president at the time, when we first started the chapter again, had to go away for work in a different country. So this position was left vacant. And it was suggested that I would, jump in and be the president. And I'm like a year out of college. Like I'm having fun. I'm finally getting paid, all this good stuff. And they're like, "Oh, you want to be a bit of a chapter?" And I'm like, I mean, sure. There's no president. There's no rules of how I could run this. I could just pretty much do it how we think is the best. And so the big difference between the two worlds is really, as a student, essentially everyone wants the same thing. You want a job. You want to graduate and get a job, or internships and whatnot. At the professional level, everyone wants different things. Either they want to go back to school, either they want to continue their work and get, promotions. Family gets involved. People start getting married. The vibe is so much different. So as a student, you can do a meeting where you bring in a speaker. Everyone wants to listen because potentially you can have a conversation that could lead to something. At the professional level, you got to give all these opportunities, different offers of events, so it can appeal to something. And that was a big thing, because some people may not want to hear from who knows who, or they might not, I have to babysit my kids. Like, where am I going to put my kids if they can't come to the event? So all these things you have to think about. And it's not easy. I mean, if you look at it, professional chapters are not easy to maintain and to really thrive a lot. Some areas, they do it well. Like, I don't know, they're in big cities, so it's easy to kind of thing. And there's so many factors too. Like, are majority of the people in the location young? Can you appeal to those people? How many people are more now senior, advanced in their careers? Like, I did it for like a year, and after that, I was like, listen, it was fun, and we did a lot. I'm very proud of what we did as a professional chapter. We were able to not only have an Orlando-based chapter, but one in the Space Coast, because obviously a lot of people were now moving over there. So we want to take advantage of that. And we had a lot of family events, a lot of socials. We worked a lot with the student chapters. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work. So if I were to prefer between the two, I would go back to being a student, because it's way easier and more important. So
This sounds like a lot to manage. What inspired you to help reinvigorate that professional chapter?
because I'm an idiot, man. Like, I don't know. I was hesitant, but I spoke to the president before he left, and he was just like, "Man, you were president of SHIP as a student. You've got the leadership thing. People like you. People listen to you. Why not?" I'm like, I mean, yeah, it's gonna be a challenge whether I was fresh out of college or 5 years into it. So I was like, let's see what we can do. And I'm all about, like, hey, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I tried. And I tried, and I did a lot. We did a lot, and I'm very proud of it. But I mean, it was definitely a challenge. So, I like Fernando said earlier, SHIP did a big part of my life. It allowed me to become a professional, allowed me to get these opportunities. And I was heavily involved as a student. Like, I had roles up the yang to all a wide range of things. And I was very grateful to the organization for what it did. And I wanted to continue to provide that. But more importantly, for the members, for the students and the professionals. So that was a big, definitely, aspect to still wanting to be involved. Because if I didn't really care, I honestly wouldn't have done it. So, yeah.
That makes sense. That's
So,
awesome.
so the same way that in college, the chef parties, the chef tailgates took from your classes, did the professional level take away from your work, or not really? Did it affect you some sort of way?
Actually, it helped me a lot.
Really?
To be honest, it took things away in the sense of when I'd get home from work, my focus was like, oh, are we going to do an event? What's coming up? But the thing is, there is an advantage though. As a student chapter, you got to worry about, do I have to do events weekly? Do I have to do them every once in a while? How many can we do? As a professional, you can do 1 or 2 a month.
Oh,
You don't
wow.
really have to worry about that, and focus on those events and make them as best as you can possibly can. Because there you have to get venues, because we're not fortunate as a student chapter. We can just go get a room in engineering and you're done. No, we have to find a restaurant, or we have to find some sort of place that's allowing us to do that. They take whatever, money from the beers that people drink. Like, there's a whole different vibe to that, but it's not as frequent.
Yeah.
But the advantage that I got was at Northrup in Melbourne, they have ERGs, employee resource groups. And kind of like in college, where they're different types. So they have ones for women, they have ones for discipline based, and they have one for Hispanics, and it's called Adelante. And there I was getting to know people, and they knew who I was from SHEP, and we had a good vibe of people there. So we kind of partnered with them and say, hey, listen, for people in this town, we can do these things outside of work, and SHEP can be the outside of work stuff, and Adelante can be the in work stuff. So my network instantly within a year of working just kind of expanded. And because of the work I was doing there, they allowed me to represent the company. That really got me to go to my first conference as a recruiter. Because normally, depending on the company, it's not easy if you're a first year, entry level type of employee. You have to really build a case. But I was saying, hey, listen, I'm president of SHEP. I'm involved in this. Like, and they was like, all right, go. Here's some money. Go do your thing. So definitely, career-wise, it helped me a lot. And I still know people, and I was able to meet people. Like, I remember when I transferred here in Orlando, one of the global supply chain people that I interact with at the time said, hey man, I've seen your name before. Were you part of SHEP? I was like, yeah. He's like, dude, I was listening to what some event that we did. And I was like, oh, great, cool. And so you instantly start meeting more people like that. So network-wise, it helped me a lot. Oh, and I got a few, you mentioned the awards and stuff. Like, a lot of the stuff that I was doing with that allowed me to get some of the stuff that I was awarded, and didn't hurt. So
No, I think it's really cool that even this whole time period, you're still, in SHEB. I know I even met some of your mentees. Mariana, is Carlos your mentee?
yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's really cool that you're being back in every sort of way, and you're still really involved with it. It's really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I had no intention of becoming a mentor, to be honest with you. I never really had one. So I remember the first time I got invited to go speak, because, hey, like, you work now, so maybe we can bring you in. People buy into what you're going to say. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to say. Like, okay, I'll talk about the company. I don't know. And when I went to do that, I had slides, and I was reading off the slides and stuff like that. But then I started realizing that I can't just speak about a company. I gotta talk about something relating to them, like myself or my GPA or something. And I told my GPA story with the whole academic probation thing. And you guys have probably been to meetings where you bring a speaker, and then once the meeting is done, there's like a line of people wanting to talk to the person. Well, I had a line, and a majority of the people in that line wanted to talk about my story. They didn't want to talk about the company. And that's really where it clicked. So I was like, maybe there's a few people out there that could benefit that. And that meeting I'm talking about, I met Carlos. And that's when we officially met, and we kicked it off. And at the time, we just started kind of helping. I started helping him and mentoring him, and then the rest is history. I mentor here and there. Nowadays, not so much given the whole circumstances, but like, if the person is willing to do some work and show the worth, then I'm like, all right, I'm willing to help you out as much as I can.
And just to clarify a bit, Carlos is actually the current UCF chef president. So it's kind of funny, his predecessor in a way.
I may have helped him, convince him to do that. So
yeah, he was very hesitant.
Yeah, very hesitant. Yeah.
So funny. But so can you tell us a bit more about your work?
So what I can tell you, because there is a lot of government related stuff. So currently I'm the mission assurance lead at one of the programs here based in Orlando. My role is to essentially make sure that, well, a variety of things. I have to make sure that we're meeting certain contractual requirements with the customer. I have to make sure that a lot of the stuff that we turn into the customer meets certain quality expectations and requirements. So I do a lot of peer reviewing. I do a lot of document checks. There's a few documents that I have to write up that are part of my, submittals to the customer. One of the big things I'm in charge of is risk and opportunity tracking. So are there any risks to our program or to our contract? I have to make sure that we are tracking them, that we're mitigating them, that we have a plan to make sure that these risks do not become issues. And that involves, how much is this going to hit us cost-wise, schedule-wise. And I got to present these things to a lot of important people. And sometimes it goes well, and sometimes they kind of go, like, all I can do is like I'm tracking and I'm doing my best to make sure that we don't go over or anything. And I'm involved in a lot of the software tests that we do there. I have to make sure that everything that's part of the test is checked off by me quality before we send them anywhere else. And it's a variety of things. So it's fun. I enjoy it. It's a much more leadership type role than I've had in my career wise, engineer wise. But it's been cool. So far, so good.
And what do you think has prepared you? I mean, for as far back as you want to go, whether it's your life or just college, what do you think has prepared you to, take a position like this?
Shep definitely helped. Obviously, being a leader, kind of knowing the way of kind of running things in a way. Even though I don't really manage people a lot, it's just more of like, this is my thing and I have to do it, and I have a responsibility with it. Life-wise, I told this story a few times. My dad, when I was a kid, used to say, he told me recently when I first got to UCF, that when you were a kid, you used to always be kind of the leader within the kids in the neighborhood. You'd be the one doing the games and telling people kind of what to do. And he always thought that eventually that would kind of happen. And so when he saw me get more involved in Shep and doing all these things, he told me, he was like, you're finally kind of doing that thing. So I don't know if it's a characteristic I've had myself, but I think preparing wise, Shep really led me to kind of get to that position in a way. Because you don't get these positions just by doing a lot of stuff. You have to have that personality, I think. And
no, absolutely.
For the interview I had for this was more of a conversation than anything. I think it lasted 15 minutes. We talked about life, and we talked about that I was married and whatever. And here my experience. Here's what I've done, and take it or leave it. And he was like, "All right, you're in." Okay,
that's awesome. Do you have any advice for, especially, college kids, some of which who have never had an interview before? And I know in my experience, before I had my first interview, I had some, mock interviews that actually really worried me. These people in these mock interviews would really like drill me on knowledge and almost be condescending to a point. Hopefully that's not the experience other people are getting in these mock interviews. But I know firsthand as well that interviews are not quite that every time. And I'm wondering if A, do you guys agree? And B, would you have a better, comprehensive idea of what an interview might entail for those who are listening?
I would agree and disagree. There are people, and it's all about the interviewer too. There are people that are going to grill you. They're going to want to know what you know, plain and simple. And it's going to be blunt and serious. And sometimes you walk out feeling like you shouldn't have even gone into engineering. But there are people that genuinely want to know you. They genuinely want to know what you know, but who you are. And when I've done mock interviews, I do a mix of both. I say, hey, listen, I want to know who you are, but show me a little bit of what you got. What do you have to offer? So my advice would be, listen, know what you know. Don't go pretending that you know more than you should. If you're going to pretend that you're the biggest fan of this particular company and you don't know anything about the company, you will fail. Because I've had that as an interviewer where someone would come to me and like, I love Northrop Grumman. I can't wait to work with you guys. It's been a passion for me since college. I'm like, all right, so what about Northrop Grumman do you like in particular? Well, I know you guys do airplanes. I'm like, we do things that fly, but you got to be a little bit more specific about that. So know what you know. And for me, it's always been a conversation, and once I learned that in my mind, that this is just a talk between two people, my interviews went way better And every interview that I've had a big success in, it's always been just kind of something simple and talking about something. I mean, we do get into some aspects about the job and what I've done, but a majority of the time it's a conversation. I remember last year I went to the Chef Conference in Arizona, and I had a few interviews, and I just wanted to see if I still got it. I wanted to see if maybe I just recently got this job, so I was like, I'm not worried about it. Let me see what happens. And it was for Lockheed. And I went in there, and the guy was like a director of some space program in San Francisco or something. I was like, okay. I was like, yeah, let's see what happens. I sat down. We just started talking about what I've done, what he's done, and we just started talking about the company and the job and how he's like what he's doing and what I've done since all this stuff. And he was up there. He's probably like 60 something at least. And it was a great conversation. And they called me and said, "Hey, Link, we'd like to do another interview." And I was like, but it was just so simple. And it was it was actually a big type of role. It was like, I think a little bit bigger than what I'm currently doing.
Wow.
But
it's incredible.
My advice would be that just have a conversation. Don't be, you're going to be nervous. And if you stumble, take a minute, step back, get your thoughts again, because it's perfectly fine. Because there are people that will understand that you're going to be nervous, that this is probably your first or third time doing this. It doesn't matter. We get it. But just be cool. Know who you are, and that's it. They take it, great. They don't, find something else.
I think that's like our goal with this podcast too. So we can show up, professors or professionals or just people too. Just having a conversation. Like we all eat, we all sleep, we all stress. So stemming from that, I actually have some personal experience as well, where I've been blessed enough where, every interview has been behavioral and technical, but I always like stem it off to something else. For instance, my offer last year from Cummins, they asked me about my resume, my projects, but they also asked me about being Peruvian and the food we have and just my culture. Or the interview I had an hour ago with another company. He said that he liked playing FIFA, and I like playing FIFA. So we're going to play FIFA next week. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, you
never know. Yeah,
you gotta be yourself. Don't fake anything. People can really see that. Not just like recruiters, but like in the real world.
And people sometimes are shy when they talk to a recruiter about a project they did at home. I remember I met this student at USF, South Florida, and she had done this project and built the R2D2. And we just ended up talking. I didn't care about anything else. I wanted to know more about that and how they built it, how they did it. She showed me pictures on her cell phone. And we talked till this day. I think I talked to her like 2 days ago to see how she was doing, and she's not working at Lockheed Martin. And I was like, you never know. And so for me, like you just said, it's like sometimes you can have a great conversation over the smallest thing that you did at some point of your life that has nothing to do with college or anything like that. And that could stem into something like that. My first job interview, the final job I got before ending college, we ended up talking about dancing. Hey, is there any place to dance near here? And I was like, few. I mean, cool. And then that's it. So, and he actually went to my wedding, and he finally saw me dance, and he was like, "So that's why you got the job," as a joke. But I was like, "Okay, good to know. Good to know."
That's so funny.
Yes, these little things. I mean, have a personality. Like I said in the beginning, that was my mistake. I was trying to be, a bright-eyed kid ready to get into work, and that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a relatively optimistic person, but my mindset isn't, I love this company because it's this company because I wanted, that's not a personality. That's, I mean, pandering more than anything. And
And I don't want to downplay that, but sometimes when I first hear that, it's like, it could be genuine. If there's people that are pure, like fans of something, but that's always a little bit of a red flag. Cause like, I don't know if this person's going to be legit with me, or if she's gonna try to wiggle his way in there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Real quick, Fernando, did you hear my Ronnie B story?
I did not actually.
Okay, this is a funny story. I'll make it quick. So I was recruiting for Northrup, and I was at our hospitality suite, our mixer, and I had a line of people talking to me, and here and there, some good candidates, some not. This guy comes in, so enthusiastic. He was so animated. He was moving his arms up and down. Comes up to me. Say, "Listen, man," give me his resume. "My name's Ronnie B. Don't worry about my resume, my GPA. I'm here to talk about you." And we just he started pretty much talking all this stuff about like himself and why I should hire him and why I'm the one to do it. And I looked at his resume trying to be professional. I'm trying my best not to laugh because it was really hilarious. He literally had his name Ronnie and the big letter B as his middle initial. And I don't remember his last name because I got lost with the big capital B as his initial. And I already knew, like, I'm gonna have to turn this guy down as nicely as possible because his GPA was not up to par. He was trying his best to sell himself too much with his personality, and I just was like, stop. I'm going to give you some real advice. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to give you any opportunities for these X reasons, but next time, just tone it down. So the reason I bring that up is just sometimes you can go too much. So try not to go too far into like thinking that you can win someone off with their personality, because there are going to be people like, listen, you got to find that balance.
Absolutely.
You got to give a little bit of both sides. So.
Oh yeah. I think people can also see through that kind of stuff, that facade of a personality. Like,
yeah. Definitely.
So what made you get your MBA and not some sort of degree or master's degree in industrial engineering?
So I was in school for a long time, as you can probably tell from the beginning of the story. So, from 2007 to 2015, I was nonstop school. And I wanted a break. So finally working, getting some money, like again, finally having a little bit of fun. But obviously master's was in the back of my mind. I just didn't know what. And if I was going to spend the money to go back to master's school, I was like, I need to make sure it's something I'm going to really want to do, and it's going to benefit me in some way. So I think I took about a year or two off between, was it 2 years? Yeah, about 2 years off. And during that time frame, I started looking at some of the programs Northrop was offering, what some of the universities nearby were offering, seeing kind of what I wanted to do. And I know a lot of people that wanted to go straight into masters and stuff like that, which is nothing wrong. But I was like, I want to work first. I want to get the vibe of how working is and see if there's an area that might interest me that I can really take advantage of. And I remember I went to an info session for UF. They had one here in Orlando. And it was for an MBA/industrial engineering master's degree. And I sat there and they were going over some of the same classes I had already gone through as an undergrad. And I was just like, I do not want to do this again. Like, I do not want to go over this again. And I decided that I will not be doing engineering as a master's. I'm going to have to find something else. I want to do something different. And, I've had ideas of doing business. I've had ideas of maybe starting something down the road. And at the time, I had started a podcast for mentoring after I was involved with Shep. And that was kind of an idea I had about maybe doing something with that. So then the MBA started picking my interest, and the Florida Institute of Technology was right across the street down the road from Northrup in Melbourne. And I was like, let's see what these guys have to offer. And they had a program and they had a discount for Northrup employees. The company was willing to pay for it. It was only going to be 2 years online. It was convenient to my schedule. Because a lot of these other programs were like, you got to come right after work and come spend hours of a day to do this, or go spend a weekend every month just going to school and studying. And I was like, it's on my own time. It's on my, my own responsibility. I think I can do this. And it was 2 years. It went quick, to be honest with you. And there were times where I hated it. I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this again. I could be having turkey and Thanksgiving, but I'm finalizing this stupid report. But it was great. And I graduated recently in this last December. So it was a good opportunity, good experience.
So I know, because
Awesome.
I have a lot of friends, even myself, even that at this point in our lives, and graduating, or even after graduation, we keep asking ourselves, cool, we're done. We have a job, full-time offer, and that's awesome. Should I get my master's? Should I get the P? Should I take the FE? Should I take the PE? Do companies really care? I'm already making X amount of money. What's your recommendation? What's your perspective on it?
As a recruiter, I'll say this, because this is something I learned too. It's becoming more frequent for people to get their bachelor's. And when it comes to promotions, you have to start considering, once again, what am I bringing to the table that you're competing with the other people for these promotions? And now more and more people are looking at those master's degrees. They're looking at those PhDs. They're wanting to see how further you're doing in your education, lives. So getting a master's is starting to become much more valuable nowadays than it was even just 5 years ago. So that was another incentive to go back and to get something. Because all right, I'm doing great. I've got all this leadership stuff, but I can't bank. My boss actually told me that. It's like, you can't bank on just your leadership for the rest of your career. You got to give them something else too. And I was like, all right, well, okay, let me go do my master's. And so my advice is like that. You may not know right away that you're going to do your master's or what. Take the time to do some research. Talk to people when you start working, and benefit the company, man. Like they paid the whole thing. And I've had to pay a few things for like tax purposes, because that's another thing that has to come into play. But dude, take advantage. It's honestly free education. And I was like, why not? And it will help you in the long run. I mean, depending on what you do, it will help you.
Yeah, do you feel like which masters you get is an important factor in that as well? Because I know some people, especially go from engineering to business because it helps you a lot in the whole manager side of the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
I assume for those of which you want to get more into research, they're looking more into another engineering degree. Do you have any experience or any references that kind of, decision of which masters came up?
It just depends on the route you want to start taking your career. I mean, that route can change obviously throughout the years, but I remember when I first started, they gave us these roadmaps that if you want to be more technical, this is the way to do it. If you want to be more manager, this is the way to do it. They never really factor in the masters. I think masters is a very just generic term they use, at least in my company, where it's like, all right, you have 3 years of experience with a master's. All right, you qualify for this role or this promotion. If you're going to go a more managerial route, you could take certain degrees or master's degrees that will prepare you that. There's a systems engineering master's that a part of that has a little bit of managerial thing. So that helps you in that sense. If you want to be more technical, try to create a focus on certain things in the discipline that can come off as that technical. So it really honestly depends, and it's hard to really pinpoint what's the best choice. It just feels of what you feel may benefit you in the long run. The MBA, I wanted to do more of the leadership thing. I wanted to get into more of the management route, and I felt that was the best opportunity to do so. Because I know personally for me, I don't think engineering is going to be the end of all down the road. I think eventually I will turn into something else. And I figured I might as well have an MBA to kind of say I have something to go off of. Instead of just doing engineering and like, oh, I'm going to go into this type of industry. I'm like, but you've only known engineering. I'm like, so I don't want to be stuck in that kind of that hole,
Oh, yeah.
That's understandable. So I hear this a lot. And again, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm still a student. I'm still learning. And I often hear that college teaches, not college, engineering for the most part at least, teaches you how to learn. You don't really use the majority of the things that you learn from your classes. And stemming from this to a master's level, I guess, do you use what you learned in your master's degree and apply it to the real world? Or is it still like, learning how to learn how to learn?
That's a good question. There is some truth to the college side of things. You do learn to learn, and you apply certain aspects, but they pretty much teach you how to work, essentially. From a master's perspective, I understand things more. I understand, when I got into this current role, I was just finishing my master's. So learning the business side of this thing, I understood things. I understood why decisions are made. I understood why people decide to go this route instead of one that may make more sense. I understood that a little bit more because of the master's I was learning. So I think it expands your understanding if you go into a master's. Because, if you go into a master's in industrial engineering, for example, there's different routes you can take. Either it's a systems engineering route, is it more cost related, this type of things. So it expands what you already know. Has the master's helped me in my day-to-day? Yes and no. It's allowed me to think more business-like, more of a bigger systems-wide perspective. But unfortunately, with the pandemic, that kind of paused everything. So it became more of like adapting to the current work environment and making sure we did the work done instead of just worrying about my personal, I guess, experiences, which I'm hoping to try to get back to soon because I want to start now focusing on the next path forward instead of just adapting to everything.
Absolutely. So do you think that, how was it achieving a master's in business? Was there like any difficulty? Because you didn't really, major in business administration. You just went to that route.
Engineering and business really go hand in hand sometimes. There's that bigger picture ideas that sometimes we learn that my place in this project could lead to something else. Like from the business side of things, you learn everything from the bigger picture. And I always had that mentality, especially in industrial engineering, because we tend to see things more of a bigger picture type vibe. So it was an easy transition, just a different way of looking at it from a business thing. So it wasn't really that hard. It's just I didn't have to worry about formulas or equations this time around. It was just about memorizing the books and and referencing things and stuff like that. I think the hard part was adapting it to my current life. Like, you work during the day, you get home, you got to do homework. And you got to please the lady at home. You got to, do all these other things that the adult comes, the adult side of things. And that's when I understood, going back to being president of the profession, I thought, this is why people don't go out anymore, because they can't. They have all this other stuff they got to do. So I think that would be the hard part of the whole experience. It's just fitting in school between everything else that happens in life nowadays.
Well, that's incredible. Well, thank you so much. This has been wonderful talking to you. Would you like to shout yourself out a little bit? I don't know what you'd like to add to the end of this podcast.
Your own podcast.
Your own podcast, yeah.
I mean, it's still out there. It's called the G Squared podcast. I haven't done it in a while, obviously with the masters and everything. So it's called the G Squared podcast. I think it's still on iTunes, Spotify, all that good stuff. So we talk about advice for people just going to conferences, how to do interviews, resume building, you name it. It's on there. Myself, honestly, not really, because I'm stuck at home nowadays. And I think I'll just give some advice, keep pushing forward. I know times are tough nowadays. Things are different. But don't let that stop you from doing things. If it's hard for you to get things done, create a plan going forward once you're able to do things. Don't let things just always feel like you have to kind of wait until things work out. Just make a plan, see what happens, and find the best opportunities you can. That's all I can offer at this particular time.
Well, thank you so much.
That's some great advice.
No, you're fine. I know me personally, I took a lot out of this. And I can tell you that I grew a little from this whole conversation. And hopefully the viewers did as well.
Oh yeah, and we'll make sure to put those links for the YouTube videos, the links in the description below. And Fernando, I greatly appreciate your time here, Andres. I assume Fernando agrees.
No, whatever you guys need. If you want me to come back, I have no problem doing so. Thank you guys for having me. We appreciate it.
Of course you did too.
All right.